Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on introducing you to our new data set included within Mapsite. It's all about flood data today from our supplier Ambiental. I kindly have Rob Carling from Ambiental going to be doing the bulk of the presentation today, and at the back end of the presentation I'll be then getting involved just to talk you through Mapsite on how to order, and just a very quick introduction to the wider products we have within the kind of Mapsite offering, and particularly focusing on flood. So I'm going to drop off the camera for now. 25 to 30 minutes, all being well. Please ask questions as we go through the presentation and we'll cover those off at the end of the session. So for now, over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm Rob Carling from Ambiental. Today I've got sort of 15-20 minutes really to go through a brief introduction to three products we've recently added to the Mapsite Mapshop. So what we want to cover today is walk through the products, and as Daniel said, we're going to go how you order those products on the Mapsite, look at the product pages, the ordering process, and the Q&A as well. So the three products we have actually put onto the site are UK national, GB national products, all at 5 meter grid, and we have here FloodFutures, which was the first UK climate change flood model produced back in 2017. It was actually produced for a utility company called Wales and West, looking at their assets and sort of future-proofing their assets with flood and looking at their flood risk and so on. And now that is a national data set of 5 meters. We also have a national GB data set of 5 meters of groundwater, which was created in a joint partnership with BGS. And finally, we have the UK Flood Map 4 as well, which is the GB product, 5 meters, defended multiple return periods. And this is widely used by the insurance industry. Insurers like Zurich and others use this quite comprehensively in the marketplace. So what I want to really do is to start with the FloodFutures product, and this is a bit of just an overview. We can organise, if there is demand, a more technical session maybe early next year. So FloodFutures was the first to produce. It's a UK model. It's a national scale, and it looks at the three main flood perils: tidal, fluvial, and pluvial flooding. For epochs 2020, 2050 and 2080, based on the UK climate projections, initially 09, then updating to 18 as well. It's a 1 in 100 year return period, and it's undefended. And we also look at the emission scenarios for each of those epochs at high, medium and low. As I said, it's UK CPO 9, which was introduced 3 or 4 years ago, and we've just been updating that to 18 as well, and from guidance from EA, CEPA and NRW. As I said, it looks at low, medium and high emissions. It is quite a big data set, although it's only one return period. There's 54 layers because you've got 10 layers for each of the epochs, looking at the different emission scenarios, and tidal, pluvial and fluvial. And the themes, as I mentioned there, are covering the fluvial, pluvial, coastal, sea level rise, riverbank erosion, impacts to transportation, and so on. And I'll go into those in a little bit more detail as we go through the presentation. So what we've done here is we've looked at the different CO2 emissions in the atmosphere and the different emission scenarios. Obviously, that's going to create more precipitation, more volume of water coming down the rivers into pluvial flooding as well for the surface water. And we've looked at the different epochs, 2020, 2050 and 2080. And then we've regionalised those different things based on the climate projections guidance. So here you are, as you're all aware, you have different rain levels in different parts. And this, I think, uses up to like 14 different sort of catchments. So we've weighted those levels for the different epochs across the catchments. We have the baseline 2017 for peak river flow, intense short duration rainfall and sea level and storm surge. And then we have the low, medium and high for the different epochs, 2020, 2050 and 2080. And on that slide, you should be able to see Anglia Clyde, Dundee, Forth, and so on. You can see the different weightings we've put on those different regions. And if I just go to the next slide, I've got quite a lot of sort of images here, which is better to illustrate this. This is a picture, aerial photograph of Bristol. And what we're looking at here now is the FloodFutures product, the 1 in 1 year, 100-year return period at the baseline. The baseline was 2017. And the depth, the different colours there are the depth of the flooding for the pluvial flooding, the surface water. And if I sort of wind that forward to looking at different epochs, if we look at the 2050 medium emissions epoch, you can see that the surface water flooding has increased. But if we look to the 60 years ahead now at the high emissions epoch, the worst climate change scenario, you can see that a lot of that sort of Bristol area is going to be underwater from pluvial. This is an undefended data set purely because it's looking to the future. And our view is that a lot of the flood defences are yet to be built, and also other flood defences which are built may deteriorate over time, particularly up to 60 years. So it's an undefended sort of worst case scenario. What I'm going to take you on to now is just to look at the fluvial flooding for Worcester. This is a bit of obviously Worcester flooded early this year, back in February time, very badly, and this is looking at the different emission levels for Worcester. This is the medium emission level for, again, the 100-year return period at 2080, so 60 years ahead, and you can see a lot of that area is actually underwater. But if we sort of look at the high emissions, that extent there has increased dramatically, and this is a really good guide for maybe snapshot if you want to look at something in the future, what's going to happen, maybe a development side or something, a sort of snapshot of what's going to happen in the future for climate change. So those are the two sort of scenarios. Now I'm going to have just a little bit of a look at some regional bit of focus. We did a bit of analysis on the London boroughs earlier this year, and we sort of projected how the number of residential properties may change with the different scenarios here. And this is our interpretation of this. So what we have here is the surface water flooding for the 32 or so London boroughs at 1 in 100 years at present day, and there's just under 500,000 properties. Then we projected that for the 2050, the medium emissions, and you can see there's 850,000 properties. And for the high, again in 2050, surface water, it's 1.1 million. And then we projected that again to the medium and the high for the epoch 2080. And you can see you're getting up to nearly 1.2 million properties, a sort of increase of potentially 700,000. And this is just the pluvial flooding within London. So just the illustration. And if we look at one of the London boroughs, here, Newham and Redditch, you can see that we've got the current risk there in the sort of orange sort of colour. And then we've got the purplish sort of reddish sort of colour there showing the 2050 risk, and again the blue, the 2080 risk, again for the surface water here. So you can see how that risk, again, these are undefended, this is pluvial, but there's no defences or anything on here, and you can see how that is changing over time. And just a little bit of some stats here. Again, this is Ambiental's interpretation of our data, looking at the properties here of, in 2017, looking at the base, 1 in 9 properties has got potential risk, and looking at the different emission levels for 2020, the medium at 2050 and 2080. We're predicting that 1 in 6 properties in 2080 under a medium emission scenario is going to be potentially flooded. And you can see the graph on the right, the different catchments. There's a different levels of properties which are going to be affected in those different catchments. So it's not across the country, which we've modelled under the projections as well. If I go on to the next sort of thing here, one of the other things we've done on here, and again, this is our interpretation, and this is particularly good for asset managers and others, is looking at the erosion potential from these different epochs under the UK projections. So a simple thing here, we obviously are going to get more volume in the river channel here, and we've actually done a projection here within this data layer, which is available from EMAP site, looking at the low, medium and high risk here, the red obviously being the high risk. where you're going to get a riverbank erosion, depending, and this is the medium emissions limit. So if you've got assets or a building site or infrastructure near a river, and you've got a high erosion potential, particularly looking into the future, does a utility or something have to move that asset, or will it damage a housing estate or something like that? So it's just a sort of good indication of what might happen in the future. What I want to go to now is another data set we've recently launched and put on the EMAP site, is the 5 meter groundwater. And this, I won't go into too much technical details, but this is just an overview here on the slide. So it's a 5 meter groundwater, again, a 1 in 100 year return period. Like the FloodFutures and the UK flood map, we use the EA LiDAR data, and we update that as that is updated. But a lot of you will know that that's not complete, so we fill in the gaps there with the blue sky DTM 5 meter high resolution photogrammetry derived DTM as well to fill in the gaps. We look at the chalk groundwater with a partnership with BGS, and again the national groundwater data set. And with working with the BGS, we've created the 5 meter grid flood map here, which is a 5-point score from negligible to high risk. And if I just move to the next slide, it gives you an idea of how this actually works. And we think for sort of street works, deep foundations, if you just want a snapshot of what the groundwater will look like, all of our models are national models, so and a lot of them are used by the insurance industry on a national basis. So it doesn't take necessarily local conditions, although we use the defended data in some of the data sets and things from the EA. So we have the negligible there, it's the high risk, and the different colours, the red being the high risk and the other colours being the sort of lower risks there here. And again, that's available from the EMAP site. And if we just go finally to the last data set, this is our UK flood map 4. It covers, this is the 4th edition, and we update this on an annual basis. As I mentioned, it's used by a lot of the insurance industry and other sort of industries as well. It covers 100% of the UK. It's building, it's property level, all major sources of flooding. And we also estimate that we have probably 30% more rivers covered, because we actually model higher up into the catchment as well. It uses the hydraulic modelling. And we have multiple return periods from this, 1 in 30 year sort of standard. I think we've got up to 6 return periods, up to the 1 in 1,000 year. And it uses our software for hydraulic modelling. Again, it is a national data set, so it uses certain assumptions for a national data set. But again, it will give you a snapshot, and that picture there down on the bottom right gives you an indication. The yellow bits there are where we've modelled, well, we believe, higher up in the catchment areas as well. Indication. So if I just move on to the next slide, within this UK flood map 4, we have a defended and undefended version as well, and this is an illustration of the flood defences. And we factor those flood defences and create a defended layer there. This is looking at the fluvial, obviously the river here, and you can illustrations of flood defences. And we update this map every year with it, and also the information coming out from the EA and others on the flood defences. So sort of finally going on to the end here, we do a lot of validation of our models. And when we have a major event, the last one was earlier this year, as you all know, we've done an analysis of the model, and the models did actually compare very well to the events there. So if you go onto our webpage, that can be downloaded, that analysis, and it looks at all the major flooding in Worcester, Tewkesbury, some of the north of England and other places flooded last year as well. So it gives an in-depth analysis and how different areas have sort of compare with the models, but it did actually compare very well. If I go on to the next thing here, there are some other territories we also do, which you can get. It's not on the Mapshop at EMAP site, but if you inquire through EMAP site, you can get these. We have a 5 meter flood map for Ireland, Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, again with multiple return periods, and we're looking to do a climate change model potentially there as well. And we're also rolling out high resolution flood maps for Europe at the moment. We've got Portugal, Spain and France available, with other countries coming on. And again, that's going to be initially pluvial, but all the other sort of major flood, fluvial and tidal as well as going forward. And the other high resolution, I know it's a long way from here, we do have very high resolution data for Australia, a 5-meter grid, and New Zealand, a 5-meter grid as well, again covering all the different flood types. And we are, as the demand increases, looking at climate change models for those territories as well. So really, just to sort of summarize here, just to give you an idea of this data, what we believe it should be used and shouldn't be used. What we believe is it's an alternative view of a flood risk. So if you want to look at future flood risk and you want a snapshot, you want to look at groundwater because you've got a development, you want to have a snapshot of what's happening, or you want to look at current flood risk for the different things on a project you're looking at, site assessment and so on. We've priced this per square kilometre on the EMAP site. It's very competitive, the price, so it just gives you an idea. Want to be really quite clear is it's not an alternative to the EA map, particularly for planning or the NRW and SEPA. This is a national scale. All of these are national scales. So there's certain assumptions here. It's also not a substitute for local modelling exercise with intention of challenging the EA. Again, these products cost from £15 to £30 per square kilometre. It's just to give you an alternative view if you're going on site and you just want to have a look. We have got a lot of feedback on here and lots of questions, so we're putting together with EMAP site an FAQ summary just to answer a lot of those questions going forward, and we're hoping to sort of launch that early next year. So if you do have questions, please write in and let Daniel know. So really, just before I finalise, this is what the data looks like on the EMAP site. It's automatically priced, automatically put on the Mapshop, and it's priced per square kilometre. The more you buy, the cheaper per square kilometre, and you can get areas up to 200 square kilometres from the Mapshop. But if you need bigger areas like county level or national level, please contact Daniel because we can quote for that. And when you've sort of highlighted on the Mapshop, you can order there. And I'm sure there's lots of questions. Hopefully, I'll hand you over to Daniel now, who will go through the demonstration of the Mapshop. And I'll come back at the end. Thank you for listening. Right, Daniel, I'll just hand over to you.
Thank you, Rob.
I'll stop sharing. So you should be able to take control now.
Brilliant. So everyone should be able to see my screen now with my homepage. Rob, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. So as per Rob, I'm going to quickly show you marketing pages so you can obtain kind of sample records of these data sets, but also just walk you through that first order and some other products that sit around mapping. So just a few minutes from me. So these are the applications of how to get into EMAP site if you're not aware, and I'll be focusing on the kind of Mapshop today and the reports, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. So just very briefly, I'm just going to go to our marketing pages here, and you can see the suite of data sets that we have. So the customers will need flood data, but equally other data sets like things like master map or backdrop mapping and aerial imagery. Not going to focus on that today, but Ambiental data, we've talked about the insurance industry that rely and trust that data. We also incorporate, Rob incorporates his data sets into the groundshore reports, into the environmental desk side studies. So you either can come into the Mapshop and buy your kilometre extracts that you require, or if you are doing phase 1 desk side studies, which I know a number of you on the call do, the data source that supplies that flood data will be within the groundshore reports. If they are new to you, you can click on this page, and then behind that will be the different suite of reports that we include, and with PDF sample records, or if you need to create a digital output for you as well. So just focusing on flood for a second, then the other section is risk and peril data. At the top, which you would have seen in Rob's slides, it's at the very top, you can see all the products that come through from Ambiental. If I click on one of these product pages, it gives you the detail of the data. and it'll also give you a sample output. So before you have to buy the product to see if it works for you, you can just see a sample record that's coming through. We've only had this product within the Mapshop for the last week or so, and customers are now already ordering that product, and they've been giving us some kind of useful feedback to support that FAQ document before we get into technical details. So you can see that we've got FloodFutures and the other products from Ambiental, but just so you can see further down the page, we have other suppliers of flood data from JBA and other sources, which you can see within this page here. I'm not going to go through all of those, but we've made reference to some of these other products and sources within the presentation. So, as I've mentioned, these are all the different products and sample records that sit behind that. I'm not going to go through any of the others, apart from things like utilities. We were talking earlier about the impact to underground cables that could have a future flood risk. So if you need to know those utility assets under the site, ground shore reports in terms of contaminated land and flood, that all sits well with the types of customers that are on the call today. So finally, actually how to order, which Rob's briefly mentioned. You'll be able to go into here for your environmental reports, but we're going to focus on the Mapshop. Choose your relevant location, town, street, postcode, whichever you require, top left-hand corner, but this is my quick default. So when you go into eMapSite, we don't charge any viewing charges to see the master map player. So when you do log in, make sure you can see master map, and if you can't, reach out to us, because I think that's the best way of being able to interact with the data to know exactly what you're getting. On the left-hand side, you can see the whole suite of all the products that we have. So the focus for today is in terms of the environmental side, your flood data. This will appear on the left-hand side. This will price up, and then you can take those products through the basket process. So if I made this box bigger, or if I drew my own area, that will price up accordingly on the left-hand side. So you know exactly what you're paying for. And then once it's updated, I can select the required format. Just wanted to show you this quickly. You've got the option within here of your TIFF format or shapefile. If I choose my shape, it will take that order into the basket. Now remember, within the Mapshop, it's that orange outline box is exactly what you're getting access to. And without going through the whole basket process, it will be within your orders, and then you can go through the step-by-step guide, approving the license. Make sure you put things like purchase order numbers or reference numbers into the order. And then once you submit, that data will then process in the background and come through to you. So that's all I wanted to cover off in terms of how to order and the different data sets we have. I just wanted to now see if we've got any questions that have come through, or this is an opportunity to submit questions. So I'll give everybody a few seconds to click on that. Whilst you're thinking of or asking some questions, this webinar has been recorded. So I will process that and get that uploaded onto our website and share that with you all, so you can refer back to it and share it to your colleagues if relevant. And as Rob said, if you want any more detailed presentation within your teams, which I've started to do already, there's an opportunity then to use either just myself or me and Rob to present to your wider teams at a future date. So for now, Rob, have you got anything else you wish to share?
No, I think that's everything for now, Daniel, but quite happy to answer questions.
We had some questions submitted before the presentation, so we've actually weaved those into the presentation already, but the people that have asked those questions, if there's any more clarity that you require, please come back to me. So no questions have come through now, so I'm going to say thank you to Rob for being involved in the bulk of the presentation today and putting the slides together. And otherwise, have a great day, and I will speak to you all soon. Thank you, and bye for now.
Okay, thank you.